Well, hello. Today is Thursday, November the 3rd, 2016, and this is Wes Fryer with Megan Thompson here at Cassidy School in Oklahoma City, and we have just finished 7 weeks of an after-school STEAM Studio after-school program, and we're going to reflect a little bit on what we did and what happened and things we might change, and just kind of share this out, and would love if anybody listens to this, feedback and ideas, because I am sure there are other folks in other places wrestling with some of the similar kinds of questions that we are about how we can help kids be curious and creative and be tinkerers and be makers and things like that. So, Megan, can you tell us who you are, what you do, and how did this STEAM Studio thing come to pass this semester?
Yes. Hello, my name's Megan Thompson. I teach lower division art, so I get to work with 1st and 4th grade students, and I love working in here, and their time goes by so quickly. And we had the STEAM Studio class, and I realized that our after school time goes by so quickly too. By the time they get in and have snack and get started and clean up, the time seems to just like sand in your fingers. It just goes really quickly. So I wanted to offer a STEAM Studio class for students because I like the idea of integrating art with as many things as we can, and I try to do that in the classroom with their language art classes or other classes and projects that they're doing. I like to do that just so that the connection happens more than once, because that's important for them to have a moment and then to relive that moment in a different way is kind of magical for students, I think. And I think that happens, and I get to see that happen. So getting them in a place where we can make that happen even more, if that can happen,
right,
is great. So being able to talk about science, technology, art, engineering, and math together is a great idea. I don't know if that always happens the way you plan it to, but I think we got off to a good start, and things started rolling, and try to figure out with the group that we have to work with what works best with those kids.
Did your trip to San Francisco and the Exploratorium influence this, or where did you come up with the idea of wanting to do STEAM?
Well, I know that we talked in the past briefly about STEM and the STEM class you guys offered last year, and I always my whole life have felt like, well, what about art? So, and art's part of that. Design's part of all of that. I mean, it fits
Absolutely.
With everything right. That is STEM. Art fits already in there.
Right.
It's kind of in there, not to take away from STEM, but art's a part of that.
Well, creativity and design, it's essential, to be a part of that process, iterating and being able to
and it's
invent.
there, and some of the kids have that and may not always realize that they've got it or that they're doing that.
Right.
I know that there have been lots of times that I'm doing that and I don't realize it, because when you're being creative and thinking about what you're working on, you're not always thinking about, on the outside, like how you're actually being creative, or how you're actually, thinking, well, if this happens, what might happen next. You don't always you're in the moment, and you're not thinking about, well, this is thinking like a designer.
Yeah.
You're in math class and you're thinking that, or
what's the right answer?
Yeah.
That's a different way of thinking than trying to be outside the box. And
so this offering, I've always wanted to do some kind of art club, and I didn't really want art club to be a thing like you have to pay for, an extra class to come into art club. But I wanted to offer classes, and if offering an extra class is an extra, extracurricular enrichment class, then I'm glad to offer those, really. So I love doing things like weaving or clay, and I know kids just want more time for just drawing.
Mm-hmm.
So I love offering classes in the fall and spring when I can, and I thought STEM, there's a lot of talk. It's kind of a buzzword, I think, for maybe some people, and I didn't want it to be a thing where it's just a buzzword. I want to experiment with
it concrete.
Try it.
Yep.
See what works, see how I can do it in my classroom, like we were talking about earlier. Having that small group of kids to kind of test things out with, test the waters,
sandbox,
is great. So I got to test some things. And
what were your favorite highlights of the year? We had kids from basically 3:15 to 4:15, only 7 weeks. I mean, it went really quick. What stands out in your mind as real highlights, things that you enjoyed the most, or just stories that were like, this was awesome that this happened?
What my mind goes back to is doing the art bots. I think that was a great way that we started the project with. I love getting to talk to students about different ways or modes to make art. There are a lot of different ways to make art, and it's awesome to be able to help them create something that starts making art on its own. Like, it's kind of out of your control. All of a sudden you've created something that didn't exist before, and now here it is making its own marks. And so we made these art bots. We had a couple different examples, didn't we?
How would you describe, for people who don't know what an art bot is, what is an art bot?
Well, we made these little jitterbugs, basically. Little tiny contraptions with a battery, just a regular, like, AA battery, and a DC motor. So you put those two together with a couple alligator clips and in some way design it so that it stays upright. And when you do your positive and negative, and then all of a sudden there's action and it's moving and it wants to come to life. And so that on its own is cool for students to see, you know.
And this was a new twist on it, because I've done the Jitterbug Robot project before, but hadn't done it as an art bot. And I'd heard a Science Friday podcast a year or so ago. It was talking about challenging people to make art with machines, you know. And so it was interesting. It can always happen where if you show kids a prototype, you know, we're kind of wired to think like, oh, well, I need to make what the teacher made, you know, prototype. And we did see that. But there was, we kind of took that as our first project, and then we shifted into stations with different areas that the kids could do, and choosing, you know, what they wanted to work and build and make. And I think that was good. Definitely to start with something concrete that they were able to make, and because it's a big shift to just sort of say, hey, here we are in the STEAM studio, go make and create. I mean, some kids have no problem with that, but I would say that the majority of our kids needed quite a bit more.
Yeah, I think they're used to having
facilitating. Yeah, I mean,
they're used to having a bit of direction, and we gave them direction, but we also, I thought we did a really nice job of bridging that art bot project into, all right, well, you could try it another way, do it a different way. What else could your art bot do? What else could your bot do? And offer that to them, you know, experiment in a new way, making this differently. How would you do it differently? Or try something else out. Yeah. Try something with the cardboard. See what you could make with that. See how you could attach that in with cardboard.
Yeah.
I had some ideas of other things I wanted to do, but, you know, just time restraints. They didn't all happen. And so when we broke out with the session, or the groups, not groups, but the different centers, that gave kids some ideas. They could do this, or this, and then different class times when they'd come, they usually worked in a different one.
And that helped us. We ended up, we had Makey. If you're not familiar with that, it's called a creation kit, but it's just a way to make a circuit, and you can hook it up to a computer to play a game or make music or do different kinds of things. We had a cardboard creation. We had upcycle destruction.
Yeah, we
tinkering.
had a box of found things,
recycled things that you could take apart and try to make something from. We had two girls that kind of made their own station. What did they call that? The wire, something wiring?
Just simple little wire where the girls were making little creations. And I told the one girl who was really curious in the wire, interested, always wanting to take wire home, and part of me wants to say, yes, take it home, keep working, but bring it back and make some characters, and we can put green screen and make it into where are these characters, what are they doing?
And that is something that we didn't get to do that I would like say we'll write down and do this again, is to bring in some storytelling and creativity and maybe some movie making, right? Because even with little puppets or something, doing something really small with, now you've made these characters, what's its name? Well, what's its voice? How does it sound?
Yeah.
I mean, we could do
that's a way to push like their creativity in a way that I do every day in here. They tell me they're done. Well, maybe you're really not done. You can push this further.
Right.
Tell me more about it.
Right.
Show me more about it.
Yeah.
And stop motion would be something I'd like to get into.
Right. Coma is an app my wife has used a lot on her iPad, where the kids can make a simple stop motion.
I love that.
And that
I haven't
would
played
be,
with it.
Yeah.
But I want
to. Because anything that you're making in Steam Studio, you could then take it to Coma and make a short little stop motion with it. So that
I wish that we had given them more time to maybe use an app like that or another app to show what they made,
well,
how
maybe,
they did it,
like you said,
why they did
you're
it.
still teaching these kids. They're still coming to class. Maybe you could have, and I can help you set up with a little mini tripod or a little holder for the iPad, kind of a little stop motion station, because there would be things that they're making, and when those kids are done, or I don't know, I mean, that might be something that we could find a way for kids to be able to iterate with.
I'd like that.
Yeah. I personally wish that I had been more of a maker myself. I mean, I'm so thankful to have a chance to do this, even though it's just, 1 hour a week for 7 weeks, and time goes by really fast. I love the co-teaching and the chance to do teaching, with kids, to work with them. But, like this last session, I just real quickly put together a marble run and play with that a little bit. I myself want to be doing more of the making and creating, and sort of getting my hands dirty, with the projects with the kids, because I think I don't know, there's good dynamics that come from that. And for my own curiosity, I mean, there were things last summer at iPad Palooza down in Austin that I heard a physics teacher talk about, with the science and engineering of light and sound, and I didn't really get to explore in that kind of way. So I guess I want to, I say make myself, it sounds like it's a forced thing, but really be intentional about what am I curious about, because that's what we're asking the kids to do, is to say, well, what are you curious about? Well, if I'm not modeling for them, well, I'm really curious about light waves and sound waves, and how I can make those visible.
Well, and they can get in on that with you.
True, right.
You can discover things while you're discovering it. They can kind of watch you and see that and help you maybe, or notice something maybe you didn't. And I think them being in on it with you, or kind of watching your progress, as how it just little baby steps on a project, that you're working on.
Well, passion and enthusiasm is exciting and contagious, So I think that trying to model that and do that, and then also just show them different pathways. I loved how we had some successes with kids making some things. A couple weeks ago, one of our students made a little game that was involving straws and little cardboard pieces, and moving them back and forth. But they played this game, and when you think about it, it might not seem like it was that big of a deal. But taking the resources that you have and building something in a short amount of time, and then playing a game. You want to tell the story about how he made a project that involved invention, and sees himself as more of an inventor now?
So my second graders are doing this weaving project using the extra CDs that you brought into the classroom for the jitterbugs or artbots. Those extra CDs I've kind of taken over and made them into looms. So the second graders are learning radial weaving, a radial weaving project. That has not been a headache, but it's been crazy, and I'm really happy to say that we are almost finished, and they feel so good about their work. But they're not really traditional dream catchers, so we called them dream finders, and thought about your dreams and your dreams of where you might want to go, things you might want to do, not necessarily what I want to be when I grow up, but what do you dream for yourself or for your family or your world? What gifts do you have? What are you bringing into the world? So I love being able to talk about that with students and giving them time to think on that, because I don't know how much time they really think on that. And so anyway, the kid with the cardboard game, I was really pleased to see on his feather that they wrote a word. They had some time to brainstorm in their sketchbook. And then they would write a word on their feather of their dream for themselves, or like what I was talking about. So his feather says inventor. He sees himself as an inventor, and that's really cool. This class that may have reinforced that I can make something new, and people will see that this didn't exist before. And
there's a deep side of that. It makes me think of Avatar. I see you, right? Like, I see you, Inventor. I see this inside you. But, having that affirmed and brought out, that is huge.
Yeah, it really is.
And that made me think, we've done a movie challenge. So I'm challenging Megan to see Meet the Robinsons, because that is one of my favorite movies for many reasons, but it fits in very much with being curious, being an inventor. The whole theme of that is keep moving forward. Don't be stopped by life and tough stuff that happens, and helping kids glimpse their own capability to create and to invent, to imagine. And then for it to be manifested in the world. And by the way, if you know what this is called academically, let me know. But there's something to, having a physical manifestation. You probably do this all the time with art, right? I mean, having an idea, and then you have this clay, and then you make, maybe it's exactly what you were thinking, maybe it's an approximation of what you were thinking, but isn't that powerful? Like being able to go from the imagination of the mind to a physical object that you're holding.
Yeah, and all the steps in between, point A to there, all those steps of it being so hard, of you wanting to give up, you wanting to stop, people telling you it's not going to work. There's so many little things in there that are really monumental, so that when you do realize or create, what it was you had in mind, you've gone through a lot of different things, and when you get to a point where it feels finished, it really is huge. It really is a good feeling to create something that started as just an idea, and to know, wow, this was just an idea. Just an idea, and you can make it happen.
That reminds me of another student who had struggled with his jitterbug art bot, and originally wanted to make it with pretzels. This is one of the things where you're like, I know that's not going to work, but, maybe we just let him do it and, give it a try. And it was okay. It's, as a teacher, I'm many times in that mode where I'm like, here's what I want you to do. And I know how it's going to work and it's not going to work. And I struggle giving kids that freedom to say, well, why don't you try that? Well, how'd that work for you? How did that go?
And that's what this was. That time to experiment, and if it's not going to work, just time to kind of figure that out on your own, because that's where a lot of learning comes. When his pretzel creation, I saw it in slow motion slowly fall off the table and crash into pieces, and I think all his work just crumbled. And I saw that happening in the beginning, but when that happened, it kind of was a shrug and no big deal.
Yeah.
And, it's not the end of the world.
Yeah. Well, and this is where the computational thinking comes in, which is something we hear people talk about with STEM and making. And, because it wasn't just a pure art project, it involved some engineering, a circuit. It involved, does the motor run? There's troubleshooting in that. There was feedback in that. And even I was telling Megan the story with the student Tuesday, with light. There was another project you did, the LED light card
greeting card.
Greeting card
that would light up.
That's right. He was playing with that, but hadn't put the LED light just on the battery immediately for it to light up, and he was like, "Wow, look at that!" And we used some wires to do that, and those can be kind of magical moments when literally the light comes on, and then you see them light up. But this is why it's good too to co-teach and be in that kind of environment, because as we talked about, maybe we just let him do that. I mean, it's good for kids to have freedom to experiment and to iterate and maybe fail, but to learn.
Well, and that's part of it, because there will be failures, and I tell them, that's sort of part of the process. That's part of finding your ideas, that they won't always work, and that it's not a masterpiece from the very beginning.
Right.
And it won't be, and it would be kind of boring if it was.
Right. Okay, your movie challenge to me is to watch Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. Why is this a great film?
Oh, gosh. Oh, no, you didn't do that. Well, as you were helping me remove thousands of photos, a.k.a. memories, from my iPad, and watching the iPad just slowly, change and shift, and those images are being sucked away. It's kind of like the people in the movie who who were trying desperately to remove these memories of each other, of a love that failed love that they're removing, and all those memories, childhood memories, and then the memories hiding because they don't want to be removed.
Oh, wow.
Being sucked away. It's
and what's crazy is there's scientists now looking at how we can try and affect memory, like either putting memories into people's brains that weren't there before.
So would that be like giving them an experience?
Yeah, it's bizarre. There's some weird stuff going on.
I don't know about that.
I don't either. There's lots of things to wonder about. Okay, well, where do we go from here? If we do this again, you've talked about time. Any other thoughts on what we might do differently, or how we might approach it different from what we did this year?
Well, I would like to have a little more time with them. Just even 15 minutes, would give them that little extra time, and then enough time for cleanup where it wouldn't feel so rushed. So the time, yes, a little more time on a small project of them working on an app or doing that stop motion, something for them to show us what happened for them.
Yeah.
What they figured out.
Maybe we could have also some other project options. Like if you want to go to the Steam Studio, Maker Studio, and you want to, play with the Makey or the cardboard, but there were some students that seemed to maybe need a little bit more structure, a little bit more, do this project. So I don't know, maybe we could have a couple other projects, kind of like the ArtBot, that are sort of on the menu. I don't know. I like menus, so I'm just thinking about what's the menu
kind
for what you want to do.
There.
Some are going to be more open-ended than others, I guess. Some might be, hey, here's this box of stuff. See what you can make, and then something else might be, here's a catapult. Here's the stuff to make this. You want to build that.
Well, I really like the idea of offering some kind of challenge. Mm-hmm. I don't think we really gave them that challenge.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
But offering that challenge of making something that will support this weight, or that giving them a challenge like that, I think is a great way to invite them to explore.
And that's something else that if there's a website, stemseeds.org, that I helped get started a couple years ago. And actually, we need to talk dates, because I think in this summer in June, if we want to, I've been talking to some people about doing a Maker STEM Institute, like doing several days. Cool. We'll talk about that. But it's, I forget how this just segued to what I was saying about.
Well, something I think about is how we're modeling. We may not have modeled that, our own curiosities and projects that we're working on during this class, but we are modeling collaborating, someone from a different discipline than you, and how collaborating with somebody, you bring a lot of different ideas, and how that's important to create something. And I think we did create a pretty cool class and a pretty cool experience for them that I know they want more of.
They do. Yeah. So part of our challenge, and one of the reasons we're doing this, is to share this out, right? So if you have been doing an after school club with STEAM or with STEM or with making, share what you're doing. There's a good hashtag Maker Ed for Maker in Education, and also of course STEAM. So any closing thoughts? I would go back to our sandbox idea, right? If we can find spaces where we can be creative and the stakes can be kind of low, because we weren't taking grades, and this wasn't something where there was a lot of pressure on either one of us. There was definitely a lot of room to experiment and to try something new, and I think we can see where that kind of overflow into other things that we teach and other things that we do. It's good. So yeah, I know there's some things that are worth investing in doing. Breaking bread and eating with people is always a good thing generally. But having that time after school that's just more, hey, let's experiment with these powerful ideas and these suggestions, and then getting to iterate. That's the design process, and that's part of this too. I think is being able to have some freedom, but also. This was a catalyst, right? This brought us together each week. There were sometimes I was gone, sometimes you were gone,
it was great having two people, co-teaching with someone and collaborating with somebody. Find somebody that you can work with, that you work well with, and that you can, share ideas, and
Share responsibility and kind of feed off of, and then just kind of build on, because even the ArtBot project and the ways that the centers came together, they were different than they would have been if you were doing it by yourself, or I was
Right.
doing it by myself. So,
Yeah.
good. All right, everyone, stay creative and keep sharing. Adios.
Bye. Adios.